So if you thought Donald Trump tearing down the White House was bad, just wait, it gets worse. Now we're blowing up stuff over California. These are the headlines. Remember, this is Donald Trump. There's no bottom for this guy. There's always tomorrow, right? Shell detonated over California highway during Marine exercise, officials said. And they were talking about this stuff before. Gavin Newsom was like, don't do it. It's not safe. We're going to have to close the freeway. It's going to be a massive inconvenience. Plus, again, it's not safe. Then you had to put up these signs, live weapons over freeway. This is part of Trump and J.D. Vance's plan here during the day of the No Kings protest. They want to do a military demonstration, right? Shooting stuff over California. And one actually blew up. Gavin Newsom then tweets out, the shrapnel that hit CHP vehicles, so it would be the California Highway Police, over the weekend from Trump and Vance military live munitions demonstration came from this ordinance. It's no small thing. This is what the White House thought was fine to fly over civilians on a major freeway. Thankfully, the governor closed it, right? Gavin Newsom had to close the freeway. They were shooting from something like this, right? Basically artillery. And again, one exploded where it wasn't supposed to, hit part of J.D. Vance's motorcade. The whole thing is crazy. This is the headline then. Marines investigating errant live fire blast over California's I-5, right? Artillery rounds were launched over the freeway. Gavin Newsom then also says here, first, you misled Californians about the live munitions being shot over I-5. Then you accuse the governor of overreaching when he closed portion of the freeway to protect the public, which is the right move, right? If you're shooting over freeways, you got to close these things. And now we learn live ordnance detonated early, striking a vehicle on a closed portion of the highway during the event. Without a doubt, an apology is owed to not just Californians, but to all Americans. Now, this is the White House response. Seriously, this is their response. Look at this. First of all, it's ordinance. So I guess we're trolling the spelling here. You buffoons. This is from the White House. They're messaging. You buffoons. An ordinance is an authoritative decree. So it makes sense you'd confuse the two. Second, it was allegedly shrapnel, not ordnance, that left a tiny dent scratch on the vehicle's hood. God bless great Marines. So that's their argument they're making. Oh, it's just a tiny dent or scratch and you had a spelling error. That's the White House defense. Marine Corps shrapnel hit patrol car on California freeway during demonstration. Fox News and other outlets showed the piece of shrapnel. And I just want you to guys think of this, because when I saw this, the first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, so you're going to make the case it's only shrapnel that hit the car, right? But I guess couldn't you make the case that, hey, it's only a bullet? I mean, bullets are small. Bullets aren't really dangerous. I mean, the whole thing is absolutely insane. And then you always have to make the case, and I'm sure you guys know, just imagine if like Barack Obama pulled something like this, how Fox News would react. I'm just telling you the facts here, right? Something went wrong. It got that close to hitting Vance, like literally it was landed on the car. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think anyone would argue it's a good thing. It's crazy, right? And that's the argument they make. Oh, it was just a piece of shrapnel. This is who Donald Trump and the people are. They're careless. They're reckless. They don't know what the heck they're doing. It's nuts. And then when they're tearing down the White House, they do the kind of the same argument. Like the communication is kind of the same. They're like, okay, construction's always been part of the White House. Look back to like 1950 or 1905, and they put this like list of like these old things. And it's like, oh, okay, that's the stuff that they're doing. They try to say that that's no big deal. So they actually don't deny that they're doing said things. But I want to put this in context, which I always like to do with you guys, is give you an international perspective, right? While the White House is trying to say, oh, it's no big deal, tearing down the White House, or shrapnel hitting, the vice president's motorcade, you have NATO allies cutting intel to the USA. So I read through this stuff. I have a feeling and they're not going to say this publicly, but they kind of hint at it. They might be suspecting Trump to being a Russian asset or something. And I mean, seriously, I'll read through it. This is what it says. It says, Netherlands curtails intelligence sharing with U.S. over human rights, right? So there's like, we're not going to share info with the U.S. It's not safe. It's not, look at the Netherlands has curtailed intelligence cooperation with the U.S. over fears the Trump administration could use it to violate human rights or assist Russia. So are we saying here, and it could be not just Trump, could be the Trump administration, are we saying here that they're in cahoots with Russia, that you think that they're Russian assets? Like, what are you saying here? They're not sharing intel with the Trump people. Look at this. This is from the Netherlands. The heads of civilian and military intelligence said in a joint interview with Dutch newspaper that they had become more cautious in what they share given the, quote, politicization of our intelligence. It is the frankest admission yet by a foreign spy agency about the consequences of U.S. President Trump's interference in intelligence matters. This whole thing is crazy. But like I said, I don't think they're going to say it publicly, but I'll just say this. When you deal with these kind of people, they're not stupid. They can see what's going on. We can see what's going on, right? This is a comment here. I can't comment. Well, it's a comment. I'm not commenting, but I can't comment on how the relationship is now compared to before. But it's true that we may make that decision, and sometimes we don't share things anymore. So again, you have allies in NATO not sharing stuff with the Trump people because they're worried that it could assist Russia. That's what's going on. They indicated that sharing restrictions applied to intelligence about Russia. Trump's stance on his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, has shifted several times this year, right? And then most recently on Friday, he's trying to get Zelensky to go with Moscow's terms. That's what's going on. And then you have this also where, this is the headline then, it's always good to read news from different places, right? Europeans rushed to Vladimir Zelensky's defense after a tense Donald Trump meeting. So basically, Trump really wants Zelensky to do what Putin wants. That's basically what it boils down to. And then you get the point to where, again, a NATO allies is like, we can't share intel with the U.S. They're compromised. I mean, that's how I read that. There's no other way you could read that. The whole thing is absolutely nuts. European governments have rallied behind Vladimir Zelensky and are rushing to secure a deal on the use of Russian frozen assets after the Ukrainian leader was pressured by Donald Trump to accept Putin's demands to end the war. Quote, we see President Trump's efforts to bring peace to Ukraine. All these efforts are welcome, but we don't see Russia wanting peace. We are discussing what more we can do. And if you follow anything with Putin, he's just not trustworthy. It's just the reality of it. It's the same with Trump. They're not trustworthy. And then Trump and Putin have whatever phone calls, and Trump's like, oh, I got to go meet Putin. And then you hear these things that they want to build a tunnel from Alaska to Russia, which is the craziest crap. And then they go on Elon Musk involved. They made a video on that. You can find that video. But this is sort of where we are. And then in the USA, the news you got to deal with then is, okay, are we using troops on our own people or not? Trump can send troops to Portland Appeals Court says. Local Oregon authorities are going to still try to fight this. The basic gist of it is Trump's like, okay, what can I do to take more power? That's what it ends up being. And they want to get people, used to this idea that we're going to shoot live rounds over civilians or whatever. And hey, shrapnel hits your car or whatever, no big deal. It could be a lot worse, this stuff, right? And I think Trump just keeps kind of pushing the envelope to see what he can do. And that's why it's telling us. So I show you guys around the world where the allies are just like, we can't share stuff with these people anymore. It's not safe. And then you got Trump, because they remember, and I'm just being frank with you guys, they want to keep you dumb. I'm just being frank with you, right? Then they got Trump trying to pressure universities, right? White House hits roadblock in effort to get top colleges to agree. So in fact, this is actually kind of interesting. I'd be curious, and you guys can make a guess here, out of the colleges that, and you're talking about, good colleges, which I'll leave it this way. Which state do you think would go along with it? So it looks like, the way I read it, looks like maybe only one state's go along, but most colleges are rejecting it. Here it says 6 out of 9, but it's more like 2 are thinking about it, but others are flat out rejected. So here's the answer here. So it says 6 of the 9 universities offered the deal. Earlier this month had publicly said no to the White House, a request by Monday's deadline. On Monday, University of Arizona and Vanderbilt did not accept the deal, but they said we're open to more discussions. Other universities are saying no here. But within a day of the call, so they had like a phone call with the professional wrestling CEO, now secretary person. And every time I say it just sounds so stupid, but that's what the USA is. Professional wrestling CEO is in charge of education, for reals. But within a day of the call, the University of Virginia, Dartmouth College rejected the compact, okay? And that joined MIT, Brown, and Penn. I went to Brown and Penn, so I'm happy that they said no. I used to actually work at Dartmouth, true story, and they said no also. So I'm happy to see these things. And then USC, I've been to that campus many times. I'll said no. But then here, I guess maybe Texas is going along. So the answer was Texas, I think. It says the University of Texas at Austin was invited to sign on, and the chair of the University of the Texas System Board of Regents expressed enthusiasm. So I'm not sure if that actually means agreement or not, but that's sort of where we are. So it was Texas. It was the answer. Just let you know on that. What they're doing in LA now, they're investigating what's going on with, are you arresting Americans and such. And it's just like, we're spending so much resources on this kind of stuff. I just didn't think we'd ever see this in the USA. And this idea that our allies won't even share info with us because they don't trust, the current administration is crazy. Absolutely crazy. And just, put it in context. I grew up with the Cold War, right? Like this idea, just, regardless of what you think about Reagan or Nixon or whatever, like, do you think those guys would have been sharing crap with the Russians? Like, seriously? Like, think how nuts that would be, it's just, I don't even know what to say anymore. But that's where we are, we're blowing stuff over highways and allies won't share things with us. So I just want to tell you guys what's going on. That's my thoughts, and then I want to hear yours. And I'll catch y'all in the next video.